What's up everybody, Matt Maran here for another weekly update. So there's tons of news to go over, of course, and the first story is pretty big here, and that is that Chevy has revealed the complete pricing for the 2020 Corvette, the new C8 version, of course. So, as they promised originally, it's going to start under $60,000, but just barely at $59,995. Now that does include destination, so it's not like it's technically under 60, but it's actually more. It's actually under 60,000, including destination, and that's for that base 1LT model. So that's cool. If you do want the Z51 performance package, though, for that sub 3 seconds 0 to 60 time, that's the only way you get that is with that performance package there. That's going to be $5,000 more on any trim of the Corvette. It's available on all trims. So it's nice it's available on all of them, but that means that if you want a sub 3 seconds 0 to 60 time like everyone's bragging about, then you're going to want 65 grand, not 60. So that's an interesting thing to note. Other things here is that there's lots and lots of additional add-ons that quickly inflate the price if you're not okay with a bare bones car. So magnetic ride control is another $1,895 for that, aside from the Z51 package. So you have to add this on and additionally. So if you want magnetic ride with that package, you're looking at basically $7 grand. Also, the 2LT trim is a pretty big jump up for this vehicle. It goes to $67,295. And again, if you want the performance package and stuff, you add all those options on, and then you're at $75 basically. So you can see how this is quickly getting more expensive. But that 2LT trim does give you more color options, so you are going to be limited if you want a base model as far as how many colors you can pick from. You can't get that whole color gamut that you see there on the configurator. Some of those are going to be reserved for these higher trims. Also, you know, the 2LT gives you 4 more speakers on the Bose stereo. It's 10 standard. Now it's 14 on the 2LT. You also get heated and cooled seats, a heads-up display, and a performance data recorder. All nice improvements, but again, you're going to be paying a good jump up for that higher trim. 2LT and 3LT are also the only ways you'll be able to get that front lift system for the nose, and that's $1,500 as well. And then the 3LT starts at $71,945, and that gets you the nice leather wrapped interior panels that you saw on all the promotional images, and all the vehicles that are out there running around are all 3LT models most likely, so that's why they have very nice looking interiors. Count on all that stuff in the base models being hard plastic. I mean, I hope it'll be decent materials, but I mean, again, this kind of performance at this price, there's got to be corners cut somewhere. And so I'm guessing you're going to have a lot cheaper feeling interior if you don't go for a 3LT model. Also, you get the sportier seats with Nappa leather in the 3LT too. And there's also plenty of other expensive options in typical Corvette fashion. This isn't really new or anything, but you can load up a C8 to well over 80 grand. There's like a carbon fiber ground effects kit that's nearly $5,000 on its own. There's all kinds of other carbon fiber options you can get to, again, put probably 10 grand worth of carbon fiber almost on this car if you want. And then they also did tell us the top speed for the C8. So it's going to be 194 miles per hour, but only for the base models or the ones that don't have the Z51 package. Those ones without the spoiler and without all the ground effect stuff, they're going to hit 194 miles per hour, which is an awesome top speed. If you go for the Z51 package, though, then that gets lowered by 10 to 184 miles per hour. So anyone looking for a top speed run, you're going to want to go for a non-performance package version, but just about everyone else who actually values handling and stuff, you're probably going to want to go for that package. And so anyway, interesting to see all that. Acura this week has revealed a gorgeous Type S concept here. And so this is supposed to preview the next-gen TLX Type S, which is coming, I think, in about a year or two here. But Acura does say that in the next 2 years here, it's going to be debuting 2 Type S variants. So this is just one of them here. And again, this is only a concept. But it is a little disappointing that there's only going to be 2 in the next 2 years, which means we're going to have a long rollout for these Type S models. Because they said eventually it's going to come to just about all the models in Acura's lineup, you know. So we did see an MDX Type S spied running around in the past, and so that's most likely going to be the one that comes after the TLX, which I'm assuming will be the first one. But that means if we're waiting for an RDX Type S, you're probably going to be waiting 3 years for that or something instead of 2. And there's all the other models. Those will probably be well into the 2020s as well. So a little bit of a wait there. That's the only unfortunate thing. Other things here, though, are that they also mentioned that huge air dam in the front there on this concept is functional to feed air to the high-performance engine and brake package. but they didn't get specific. But this does mean the Type S is actually going to bring the performance. This isn't just going to be like the A specs and stuff where it looks a little bit sportier, might handle a little bit better, but that's about it. This is going to be a thoroughly fast performance package. And the rumors are suggesting it's going to have a twin turbo V6. But we'll have to see if that's what ends up happening here or if it's something else. And we actually just got our first glimpse this week of the normal production version of the next-gen TLX here, thanks to spy photographer Brian Williams, who managed to capture it here. So proportionally, it looks very similar to the concept, which is awesome. I really hope that it keeps most of the same looks. But this one appears to not be a Type S model because it lacks the quad exhaust tips there and looks a lot more subdued. So I'm guessing this is going to be the standard version here, but still looks pretty promising. And so yeah, fingers crossed they don't change a thing from this concept, keep it exactly the way it is, aside from like, they have to tone down the wheels a little bit probably, but other than that, like, ship it the way it is and it's good to go. I think that would be fantastic. Other stuff here from Honda Corporation is that Honda has some great news for manual fans this week. And so they revealed some updates here to the 2020 Civic Hatchback. And the main news here is that the manual is now going to be available on the Sport Touring trim as well as the regular Sport trim. So that means that now you can finally get a nice fully loaded Honda with a manual, and it's not reserved for just the base bare bones version. And so that's awesome. I hope that they use this same strategy for the Accord, because right now you can only get an Accord with a manual if you want cloth seats and a more sparse interior. I would love to see them offer, a higher, touring sport version of the Accord. But anyway, that's an aside thing. I think, with the Civic here, they want to compete with the new Mazda 3 hatch. That's probably the main reason, since that's only available in its top trim with a manual. That's the only way you can get the manual on those. This, you can still get the manual in the base Sport. That's the cheap one. So they're not getting rid of that. They're just adding it more availability here for that top trim, which is great. But the base model also has been greatly improved for 2020. And so it now gets the standard 7-inch touchscreen infotainment with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto that the other higher models get. So that's so good they've made that standard, because before it was a super outdated little screen you had on the base Sport, and so great to see them improve that. Also, the stereo's greatly improved, so it doubles the speaker count from 4 to 8 now as standard in the base Sport model. You also get standard push button start now and the keyless proximity key access there, which is great. There's also slight styling changes as well. You can see here that are exclusive to the hatch. It's a little bit of a sportier front bumper, rear bumper. You also have some darker headlamps there that are actually improved on the Sport Touring trim. On those ones, they're a higher end LED light that is now better than the previous LEDs, so it'll have better light distribution, I suppose. So that's cool. There's other few minor changes on the interior, slightly different patterns for the cloth and trim and stuff. But the great news is that the prices have only gone up by about $100 to $500 depending on the trim for all the 2020 Civic hatchbacks here. So the Sport manual is still very affordable, starting at only $23,680, including destination. And then that new manual Sport Touring trim up there in the top upper ranges of the Civic Hatch lineup, those are going to be starting at $28,980, and that's including destination again. And these are on sale starting today, so very cool to see that, and really great improvements. I'm excited to see, again, what they do with the Accord lineup for 2022. Anyway, Lexus has debuted the 2020 LC500 Inspiration Series this week, and they did the same thing last year. Last year it was a pearl yellow color. This year, they're only making 100 of these again, but I won't go over too many of the details since nothing has really changed, aside from the fact that it now is in this beautiful nori green pearl color that I'm clearly biased towards. Obviously, it's pretty close to the color of the bullet there. Just so good. I'm so glad that other companies are realizing that dark green is such a good looking color on so many vehicles. And so I'm kind of glad to see that making a recurrence here. And great choice there by Lexus, and so cool to see that. Dodge has a special edition here they revealed. It's the 2020 Charger SRT Hellcat Widebody Daytona 50th Anniversary Edition. Whew, it's a long name, but it's pretty cool. Aside from the special Daytona appearance here, which is paying homage to the 50th anniversary of the Daytona, Charger. And so anyway, the main news here with these Chargers is that you get 10 extra horsepower over a regular Charger Hellcat. So those are still stuck at 707, but this gets the same 717 horsepower that you get in the Challenger Hellcats now for these newer ones. And so that's a nice little improvement, although not a big deal when you're talking about this much horsepower. And they are going to be pretty rare though. They're only making 501 of these, and that's the same as the homologation requirement for the Charger Daytona in the past. So that's cool to see. They haven't announced any kind of pricing yet for these, but they did say that ordering is going to be opening this fall, and the cars will be arriving early next year. And it looks like it's going to also benefit from all those new updates we saw with the regular Charger Hellcat Widebody, and that's when those are kind of coming out as well. So cool to see that. Other brief Dodge news for a minute here is that Muscle Car and Trucks spoke with Dodge's chief of engineer here, who said that he thinks that one of the main things that's helping the Challenger sell so well, despite the fact that it's so old, is that it's the magic of their design with its faithfully retro looks. And I think they're saying that's the strength of the Challenger, while the other, the Camaro and the Mustang have gone modern now in many ways, and that's kind of what they wanted to do. Dodge is sticking with the retro thing, it sounds like, for the next generation of the Challenger. And so when they were asked about the next gen of the Challenger, which they are working on currently, he said, "I wouldn't want to ruin something that's been so successful for us," and went on to actually compare the Challenger design to the design of the Wrangler, and how it's just, a Wrangler's a Wrangler. And I think he's saying a Challenger is going to always look similar to this. It's always going to have retro looks. That's what they're going to do. And I personally really am excited about this design direction for the Challenger, because I love the way it looks. I think most people love the way that it looks. And so, they'll probably change other things, and we might make it a little smaller, lighter, or whatever. But if they're going to keep retro looks, I think it will stay a hit. I think that was kind of one of the downfalls of the 6th gen Camaros, is that they ditched the retro looks. It seems to be working out okay, well, for the Mustang, but still there are some people who miss the older retro looks of the S197 Mustang. So I think Dodge has a pretty solid argument here with keeping their looks retro. I know everyone's like, oh, we're going to be in the 2020s, let's get rid of the whole retro thing. But I personally love it. It sounds like most Dodge fans do as well. So I think they're going to stick with it. And so that's fantastic. And so they're saying there's going to be most likely just evolutionary styling changes for the next gen Challenger, even though it will be mostly new, as far as everything else goes. It's still going to have retro looks, which is fantastic. So awesome to hear that. And another vehicle we got some future hints about this week are future variants of the Toyota Supra, thanks to an exclusive interview that Autoblog actually did recently with the chief engineer. And so Tada-san, the engineer, he first says there won't be a manual version ever. Like, he's just continues to, bat that rumor away. He says anyone who's interested in a manual Toyota sports car should buy an 86 for its puristic experience. And so that's, he's saying no manual. And so that's kind of annoying. But, because we know that there are manual prototypes running around. We know that it's possible, given the BMW parts bin has plenty of manuals available. So anyway, I won't go on that whole rabbit trail. But anyway, he did say that with the Supra here, they're going to have many ideas about future versions, and they have lots of things in the works. Basically saying that future versions could have much more power, and he says that with a sports car, the promise is to offer more performance with each additional version. And so Autoblog in their report here believes it's going to get about 50 more horsepower in its refresh in about 3 years. So that could actually just even it up with the Z4 as far as power goes, at least power ratings. We know the Supra is much more powerful than its ratings suggest. But anyway, it's going to get a refresh in about 3 years, get more horsepower then. There's also likely going to be new versions of the vehicle every year, even before that refresh as well. And so those changes could be slight. It could just be graphics kits or something like that. But sounds like there's going to be some meaningful performance improvements coming as well, like available carbon ceramic brakes are supposedly coming, according to Autoblog in this interview. It could be some other things like that, a more stripped down version possibly or something, who knows. But anyway, it's going to be cool to watch all that unfold, but come on, just do the manual. Everyone wants it. It's just, anyway. All right, next thing. Ford announced a few improvements to its glorious manual sports car, the GT350R, for the 2020 model year here. And so the main stuff, it's pretty minor stuff, but the front suspension has been redesigned to improve grip, and steering feel has been improved as well, thanks to the GT500's high trail steering knuckle and revisions to the steering rack and power steering booster. So again, like I said, very small changes. A few other tiny trim changes, but that's basically it. I'm just happy they're still keeping the GT350 around and selling it alongside the GT500. And so cool to see those changes. Lincoln surprised just about everyone, I think, this week, including myself, when they revealed the final specs for the 2020 Aviator, which, they already told us the specs for it and sounded very impressive at the time. Didn't need any kind of changes or improvements. But it's going to be a good bit more powerful than they originally stated here. So it was originally, supposed to do 400 horsepower from the standard engine, 400 pound-feet of torque. But now that torque has been bumped up 15 pound-feet to 415. It's a nice little surprise, but nothing big. The bigger jump here, though, is for the plug-in hybrid version, which was supposed to make an already very impressive 450 horsepower and 600 pound-feet of torque. And back when this came out, I was like, man, this is crazy. 600 pound-feet of torque from this Aviator is going to be a monster. But instead, it's going to have now 494 horsepower, 44 more than they originally said, and now 630 pound-feet of torque. So, we're talking about Porsche Cayenne Turbo numbers here. This is really impressive. Obviously, the Aviator is not going to be set up to handle like the Porsche, but from a straight line standpoint, that e-hybrid, or that's the Porsche term, the hybrid version, the plug-in version of the Lincoln here is just going to be a monster. That is really going to be exciting to drive, I think. I'm looking forward to hopefully driving one of those eventually. So anyway, awesome to see that from Lincoln here. Another very fast SUV that just debuted this week, speaking of the Porsche, was the 2020 Porsche Cayenne Turbo S e-hybrid. So we've already had, the Turbo and the Turbo S, and we've had the e-hybrid, but, combining those together like they did on the Porsche Panamera is how you get that new top trim they've been doing the past couple of years. So it's going to be available here in both the standard and the coupe body styles, and is the most powerful Cayenne that they have ever done. So it does 670 horsepower, 663 pound-feet of torque total from a 4-liter twin-turbo V8 combined with an electric motor. So the gas engine alone does about 541 horsepower, and the electric motor, they say, does 134 horsepower. And so that math would suggest 675 horsepower, but I guess supposedly 5 horsepower somehow gets lost in the conversion or something. So that's why they have 670, which is a few horsepower less than the Panamera gets in that same trim. But I guess it's just the way it's set up here. But it's still very fast. 0 to 60 only takes 3.6 seconds. It's got a top speed of 183 miles per hour. It can get a full charge in 2.5 hours, for that hybrid component, and runs a 14.1 kilowatt hour battery, but they didn't give any specific electric range as to, how far that'll actually get you. It does get the usual green e-hybrid touches on the exterior and interior. It also gets standard carbon ceramic brakes, a bunch of other stuff that's usually optional, like the Torque Vectoring Plus and a few other things. But it's a good thing that you're getting a ton more standard equipment, because this is way more expensive. So it starts at $163,250, which is over $37,000 more expensive than a regular Turbo S Cayenne. So you really got to be excited about the plug-in hybrid thing, and it's slightly stronger performance, 37 grand more. Porsche terms, I guess that's not absurd these days, but still, that is a healthy jump just to have the electric component. So anyway, interesting to see that. Volkswagen has revealed the T-Roc Cabriolet this week, but this is only for Europe, of course, and so I'm not going to get too in-depth in it, since most of you watching this are from the United States. But basically, this is a 2-door version of the T-Roc they already have in Europe, and that's usually a 4-door version. This 2-door, though, is slightly longer than the standard T-Roc, and so part of that was just because of the changes they needed to make here to add the soft top and all that kind of stuff. We'll probably never get it here in the States, but it'll be interesting to see how well it sells, considering previous convertible SUVs haven't done well, like the Range Rover Evoque convertible and the Nissan Murano Cabriolet thing, and none of those have ever done well. So we'll see if this one has any better luck, but anyway, interesting to see that. Autocar Magazine has some new rumors this week, suggesting that Jaguar might be getting way more than just that new V8 engine from BMW that we've been hearing about. We know like the new version of the F-Type that's coming, it's probably going to ditch the supercharged V8 for a twin-turbo V8 from BMW, and that motor will also go into the Range Rovers and all that kind of stuff. But over the 2020s, it sounds like BMW and Jaguar Land Rover are going to be working a lot more, at least if Autocar is correct here. So we've been hearing about about, the V8, but we've also been hearing about how Jaguar is working on 2 small crossovers to go beneath the E-Pace. And so this is something I talked about a few weeks back. And so you can go watch that video if you'd like more info on that. But anyway, the new thing here is that these baby crossovers could be using the same platform as the new BMW 2 Series Gran Coupe. So that's a vehicle that, again, isn't out yet, but I talked about that previously as well. And so basically we're talking about like a mini powertrain from the Mini Countryman and stuff, that stuff is going to be used for these baby Jaguar Land Rover crossovers, supposedly. And it also could even be using those same engines. We're not talking about just a platform sharing, but also engine sharing as well. Other stuff related to this is that these partnerships with the two of them could spawn a baby Defender for Land Rover as well, that could possibly bring back the Freelander name. So think of this kind of like how Ford's doing the Bronco and the baby Bronco, which is rumored to be called Adventurer. Mercedes has the G-Wagon and now the GLB. A similar type of thinking here, I think, is going on. And so that could likely come sometime in the 2020s here. Also, they're even saying that eventually later in the 2020s here, the next generation of the Evoque, not the brand new one that just came out, but 5 or 10 years from now, that version could also be sharing a platform with the BMW X1 and stuff like that. So lots of parts sharing. I don't think BMW is going to buy Jaguar Land Rover or anything, but I think they're going to be sharing a lot of stuff here in the 2020s. So it'll be interesting to see how that unfolds. A future car that was spied this week that's likely to be making a return here is the Black Series version of the Mercedes-AMG GT. And so thanks to Brian Williams, my spy photographer, here for these shots. And the main reason we know this is a new model, even though the AMG GTR Pro just came out, is that there's these 2 big appearance changes. So first, you can see these huge vents in the hood that look like you can fit a foot-long sub in there or something. It's huge. And so those aren't present on the GTR Pro. So this means whatever is under the hood of this thing is running hotter than it is already in the GTR Pro. They need better cooling. So you're looking at most likely more power out of whatever this variant is called, but most likely, again, Black Series might make their return. This car also has a different exhaust setup. So you have exhaust at the corners there, the quad exhaust you see, versus the center exhaust you usually get on an AMG GTR Pro. So that's a pretty big change as well, and could suggest that, what's going on under the hood there, but again, hard to say for sure. But anyway, seems like it's going to be a lot more aggressive, at least as far as power goes. And so anyway, cool to see that. And the last little bit of news here this week is that BMW announced it's killing off the awkward-looking 3 Series Gran Coupe, or Gran Turismo, the 6 Series GT Gran Turismo, and the good-looking 6 Series Gran Coupe. So the Gran Coupe is getting killed off to make room for the 8 Series Gran Coupe, which has already been revealed, so that's no surprise. The 3 Series Gran Turismo there could also be getting killed off because, that's the end of the 3 Series platform and it's going to the new version, and also it just didn't sell well. I don't know what's going on with the 6 Series Gran Turismo there, but it probably just doesn't sell well either. Everyone just would rather have an SUV, and so, with all this rumors over the past few weeks of all the German companies paring down their lineup a little bit and getting rid of some of the overlap, I think, these are some easy choices, and so I don't think anyone's going to be too sad to see any of those models go. And so anyway, interesting to hear that. But yes, that's it for all the news this week, guys. Let me know your thoughts and everything in the comments below. Thank you guys very much for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Take care.